I know that the highest salary that I have on my payslip.
All right, crazy times, right? Like we are just out of COVID now, almost out of COVID. The restrictions being lifted, and now we have a war situation going on, right? So brings a lot of uncertainty. Uncertainty is there in the most times, but I feel it is way more than usual right now. So, meeting after a week, how's everyone doing?
I'm doing great. Just now I think we are out of the COVID, like we are post-COVID era
Yeah, at
Yes.
least the
Starting
travel restrictions.
because
are-
international flights have resumed.
Yes, international flights have resumed and international operations are going to be at its peak from 27th March onwards, and hence our rosters are full already. And yes, I can see the change, and the next upcoming 5 years are going to be amazing in the aviation market. And yeah, looking forward to that growth in this aviation.
Yeah, I mean, sure. Next 5 years, like considering the COVID constraint is gone. Like 2019, aviation was growing. I guess how many you said?
2600 approximately.
2600
600.
pilots got recruited in
2019.
2019, right?
Yeah.
It was
It
the
was peak.
I mean a peak of scarcity of pilots, right? And then COVID happened, and now yes, there are many unemployed.
Do you think like World War III is around the corner, or this is it?
Well, like I said, there is an uncertainty always. Okay, it was COVID, then now it is war, but then that doesn't stop us from doing what needs to be done, right? What is the best thing to do for us, right? Yeah, so there we are. We do everything that's in our control, and probably let go of the things that are beyond our control, right?
True.
Like for an example, this morning I woke up with kind of sore throat, not on the top of the game, but and at that point, what I wanna do, there is a gap between what I wanna do and what I need to do. What I need to do is show up here, and we all three
Shoot
did
the
show up,
podcast.
right?
Yes.
So what things that concern you, look at those things that do not. Probably there are many things happening in the world that might not concern you, but are probably good, probably bad, don't know. Anyway, so what to discuss was the topic of discussion today.
Let's discuss the pros and cons of being a pilot. So we have Capt.Neha with us, who
Hello.
will share her experience. And as an aspiring pilot, there are many myths that need to be busted. Like everyone is thinking, what if I become a pilot and this happens? What if this happens? So today we will talk about all the cons and pros of becoming a pilot. So how would you like to start, with a pro or a con?
Let's start with a pro.
Okay.
Yes. The
So what is the biggest pro of becoming a pilot?
the biggest pro of becoming a pilot is the lifestyle and salaries.
Okay.
So, the
Isn't it the flying itself?
yes. Yes, the flying gives me adrenaline rush,
Uh-huh.
and when you are taking off at 160 knots, that is approximately about 280 kilometer per hour. If someone asks what is the highest speed that you have been on a road, or that you have touched, then I'm like, yes, it is 280 to 300 kilometer per hour,
Yeah.
and they're like, what, seriously?
Max I have
Yeah.
touched is 180 to 200 on road.
So
By car.
Yeah,
It is-
sure.
I
I
don't know
remember.
how much is Cessna, like 65 knots
Yeah,
is how much
56,
kilometer per
56,
hour?
right?
I guess 100.
approximately twice, just slightly less than twice, 1.85. So
Okay, so around 100 to 120 is the speed we
Yeah.
take off
Yeah,
in
that-
Cessna.
That reminds me of a meme that the other day I saw on some aviation Instagram channel. So there was a Bugatti Veyron, okay, which has 12 or 16 cylinders and huge number of cubic capacity, CCs and everything. That I do 0 to 100 in 2.3 seconds. I do this and I do that. And in the background, there was a 777. Oh, those numbers look cute. So, yeah, definitely. I mean,
Yes.
the jet engines and the technology that's used in aviation and
Is-
aircraft is
is
the
amazing. It's a
yeah,
masterpiece.
Yeah.
There are so many controls, so many push buttons. When you enter for the first time, you think that it's how do pilots manage all these buttons and these controls at a time. But now when you're a pilot, and now when I'm a captain, now it seems so easy. Though
Like
there
driving
are
a car.
though there are a lot of procedures, but still we do it seamlessly because you have done it over time, you have done it over so many years and for so many hours. So it makes the things much easier, and I still enjoy every day of flying, as well as the salaries. Yes,
Yes.
whatever you perform, and I know that the highest salary that I have on my payslip is 7 digit. That
Right.
is in one of the month, which was pre-COVID, of course.
Right.
After COVID, as everyone knows, that the salaries are almost half. So that was the time when, as a captain, it touched more than 10 lakhs. So that is the most remarkable time which I would remember, and yes, I am
Right.
looking forward that these things again come back, and it should come back soon.
Definitely, and reaching those salaries at that age. So if someone is starting career at 18, 19, gets a pilot's license at the age of 20, and gets recruited by say 22 or 21, 22, something like that. By the time the person is 25 and gets a captain's salary, it's mind blowing. Like, I cannot even imagine like a person making 10 lakh rupees
At the age of 25, when people
They-
are figuring
Yeah.
out what to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So yeah, that is one definitely special thing about pilots
So,
and
yeah.
pilot career and its salaries. Yeah. But then again, the part of being responsible with that money
Yes, of
plays
course.
a role, right?
But that was overtime salary because as a captain, it's on an average about 7 lakhs,
Okay.
approximately.
So-
But overtime, so I remember the month before that, I flew 100 hours that month. I touched my FDTL that time. So that was the time when, we were paid for the overtime. And then this was added to the salary, and that became such a big number, which
Right.
was so exciting.
So when you
So-
fly so often, like 100 hours a month, as you say, so during the red eye flight or during late nights flight, when you fly, so how do you manage your day the next day?
Oh, yeah. So yesterday itself, I had a red eye flight, which was the whole night flight, and I came back home in the morning at 7. And when everyone is waking up, I am so drowsy. I am like, my head is heavy, and I am like, no, I cannot function anything at all. So, generally, before a red eye flight, you are supposed to sleep because my reporting was at 12. Okay.
12 in
Now, in the
12
12 at night.
midnight.
So, generally, that's the time when I sleep. But that was the reporting time. And then, when we were planning to have a podcast yesterday, and I was so groggy, I'm like, I don't think I can make it.
आज नहीं हो पाएगा.
आज ना हो पाएगा.
Yeah. And then I hit the gym, and that gave me some booster and energy for a while. and
Yeah.
I got back and again passed
So
out.
it takes around 1 day to get back to your normal
Yes,
schedule
yes,
after
yes.
you do your red eye flight, right?
Yeah, it does take that much time. And now there is a rule that there is consecutive midnight operations are also allowed.
Mhm.
So in that case, you should not do anything but just sleep, because
Correct.
if you come in the morning at 3 4 or whatever, and then if you have a flight the same day at night,
Mhm.
then you need to really give your time only to rest and
Correct,
not do
correct.
absolutely anything, because you still have to be energetic and in your complete senses and attention
Correct.
in flight. Because if these flights are the international flights where the flight time is more than 3 hours, then you can have controlled rest.
Mhm.
But if in the flight, but if it is not that way, and if it's a
Yeah.
domestic flight, which is a lot nowadays, even domestic red eye flights are there, which are a lot of them. So in that case, the flight time is not more than 3 hours, and in that case, yes, you have to be aware you cannot sleep in the flight that way.
Correct.
So
Like when we are young, 16, 17, 18, 20, up to I would say 25, right? We think any time of the day if we sleep, it's
Yes.
alright, doesn't matter.
Hmm.
I just will sleep 2-3 hours, 5 hours, okay, something like that. Any hour of 24 hours, because yeah, energy is high, everything is going, the body is at its peak, right? No signs of aging so far. It's only growing age. In that age, we don't realize it, but the concept that you would be able to explain further about us, like we'll get to know about it as well, is the concept of circadian cycle, right?
yes.
So circadian cycle and the importance of sleep between night, what?
The windows of circadian low,
Right.
that is there is the entire body cycle, and the energy levels of the body are dependent on the temperature.
Mm-hmm.
So when the temperature in the afternoon,
Mhm.
when the temperature is the highest, that
Hmm.
is also the time when there is a circadian low. So
Mhm.
there is a lump in the afternoon, so post lunch you have that kind of drowsiness,
Correct.
okay, which is about between 2 to 4,
4.
okay, 3 o'clock being the peak. Even at night there is a low, windows of circadian low, where this low is much more steeper compared to that of in the afternoon.
Mhm.
So at that time, if you are awake, your reflexes are not to its peak, and your mind is not completely able to focus on the duties well, because your energy levels are itself low. Because of that, it is important that you mitigate it, you know that you are limitations of a body, and then accordingly you take the mitigating measures not to let that affect your flight.
Correct.
So-
That's about the everything in aviation, right? You need to know human limitations. You need to know the aircraft limitations and
Yes.
perform within those limitations and perform in the safest way possible.
So WCL is 2 to 6 time period between
Okay.
at night to morning 6.
Got you.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
2
In
a.m.
the
to 6.
Yeah.
in the flow of communication, we missed on actually addressing the fourth member of the podcast. That's you. You all. Okay. Welcome to India's #1 pilot podcast. Okay. Great to have you here. If you have any suggestions on topics that you want to know about, you want all of us to discuss about, including you, just put down in the comment. Okay. If you aren't subscribed, subscribe. Okay. And yeah, let's continue this conversation.
Yes.
Yes.
So
Thank
as
you
we-
for being here.
So as we are talking about the red eye flight, so has it ever happened like you got a layover, so you landed at around like 11 or 12 at night? Like, do you enjoy that layover or how is it?
Yeah, so it depends on the next day flight. What is the time at the
So
next day departure is.
generally if there's a layover, right? So how many hours layover is it?
The minimum time period for which the rest period is required to be given is 15 hours of the rest period. 15 hours from the time you have chocks on till the time you push back. Okay, so that includes your
Travel.
travel time. So actually it is said as 12 hours of rest period, but then post flight half an hour goes in the
Correct.
duty, thereafter 45 minutes of your travel, then 45 minutes of travel to our post flight, and 45 minutes pre flight. So that gets added. 1 hour before that you have reporting. So 45 minutes travel post flight, 45 minutes pre flight, which is 1.5 hour. 1 hour before that is your reporting. 1 hour before the departure time is the reporting, and then half an hour post flight. So this comes to about already 1.5, 2, and 3
3
hours.
hours.
So 12 hours plus 3 hours
So
is 15 hours. So that way 15 hours is counted. So 15 hours is the minimum time that is required for the rest period.
Correct, but honestly, if you consider one flying hour, as we were talking about the salary, pilots get paid really well, right?
Yes, a lot.
One flying hour would equate to 10,000,
8 to 10,000
8
rupees.
to 10,000 rupees
As a captain.
as a captain, approximately, right? As a first officer, it will be less, and that was pre-COVID. But that's something pretty significant amount of money
Yes,
getting
yes,
per
yes.
hour, right?
Yeah, so generally this per hour concept is dependent on airline to airline and the
Yeah.
contracts, because some airlines contract are how much ever you fly, you get paid per hour, and
Correct.
especially in COVID times when the contracts have changed, and some airlines are getting paid hourly, whereas some airlines are getting paid, they're doing the hours of what as per the contract, not exceeding that. So if someone is on 50 hours contract, then they will not exceed 50 hours of flying, because of the less reduced flying. Now, if in case the company wants you to fly more, or if there is requirement to fly more, then yes, you get paid overtime. And yes, the overtime before COVID, yes, it was quite handsome. It was about 7 to 10,000 depending on how many hours you are doing
For a captain.
per hour.
Yes.
Yes, for a captain. Yeah.
But we need to calm ourselves down. Our salaries will be, I don't know. I mean, as first officers, JFO, FO, SFO, and then
Captain.
captain. So we have some way to go. But
Not long way, around 3 to 4 years.
yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, that varies airline to airline for sure.
Yes, definitely.
The designations vary airlines to airlines. The upgrades vary airline to airlines. So
So everything we discuss here is in general, like estimates of.
Yeah.
Yes,
It is not
yes.
anything specific about any airline. And apart from that, the point being, I really appreciate all the airlines that whatever that they did during the COVID period. Like, airline itself is a really thin margin business.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Kinda. I mean, yeah, there are margins for sure. It's a huge scale business. But at the same time, the airlines have good overheads as well. And this is not any financial analysis or anything of that sort. But despite of that, not furloughing pilots and not actually firing pilots or many of the employees,
True that.
and honestly they
True.
didn't have that much of backing from the government funds, right?
True.
Like in the US, usually if a big company, a big employer is going under, then government comes in.
Governments like comes with the
Like
funds,
they
emergency
did,
funds and
like they
stuff
did
like
for
that.
Boeing, right? They did for Boeing. Boeing got a stimulus, basically. Yeah, so they did get huge funding from, and that
Yes.
wasn't the case in India. Despite of that, they continued paying all the pilots.
Yes.
Okay,
That's
and
true.
I mean, some airlines switched to the model of like how many hours you fly, you will get that much pay. Like
True,
there wasn't any fixed contract, and if you are not flying, you won't get the salary. But they weren't fired, so that is one thing which Indian Airlines have done, like handled
Great job.
very well.
Yes.
Correct.
And apart from that, in this COVID time, when the airlines were sitting on ground for more than like 3 months, uh, none of the airline have gone like bankrupt.
That's surprising and that's
That's
commendable.
it.
So waking up early, sleeping late, schedule can be anything, right? That's one con that we just
Yes.
went over.
Yes.
Yeah, and
Then, the base. You could get any base of the choice of company.
Choice of company.
Yes,
I was
yes.
like, choice
As
of fun.
as per the operational requirement, the company can
That's
allot you
initially,
any
right?
base which is of their choice. Because, see, if you see airline point of view, now there are so many pilots who belong to Mumbai and Delhi. If everyone wants their choice of base, then how can how can airlines schedule from
Yeah.
the other bases,
Yes.
right? So that is not practically possible for the airlines.
Yeah.
That is the reason why the one who are juniors will be allotted the basis of the choice of an airline. Once they reach a level of seniority and whenever there is a requirement in these bases of Mumbai and Delhi, thereafter the pilots will be sent to these bases. So it is quite fair because whenever a junior first officer joins, some of them are bachelors, some of them are quite young and they would like to explore the new places. So they are also fine and quite happy to move out. You don't have to always be under the cocoon of the family and parents. You really get to explore the world yourself,
live the
and you
bachelor
can
life.
live
Yeah.
independently. You can understand how things work when you are yourself. So that is one thing which is apart from flying, you get that sense of responsibility of you yourself.
And from what I have learned is, like, if you live alone, like by yourself, you get to learn a lot. Like staying at a new place.
That's true.
Yeah.
True.
Like when we went to the United States all by
True.
ourselves. So that was an exponential learning curve for us, like because we had to do everything by ourselves. Like until we stay with our family, we don't realize how much work we have to do. Like,
Correct.
okay, so I think that's a great way to learn a way of living.
True.
Definitely.
True.
Like cleaning the kitchens, doing the dishes, cooking, keeping the house clean. And because here's the thing about it. Becoming a pilot and pilot training itself teaches us a lot about taking responsibility. Okay. So initially, as the pilot training starts and you're living by your own, initially, definitely, the room looks like a mess. Okay. Because until this point, living in India, either you have domestic help or someone's parents are doing it, right? like your parents either would be doing it or there is a domestic help, something like that. Now, when you go to a country that is not India, you don't have any domestic help and you are living by your own. One fine morning, you find a huge mess around your bed and you're like, if I continue living like this is not gonna change. The trash is not gonna move itself, right? So you take the responsibility and from now onwards, I'm gonna keep this clean, right? And then you start cleaning, then you look into the other things of life. This was just an example.
And this is great. Like you get to see different cities also. It's not like you just have to stay at just one base, and you can be yourself. Afterwards, when you get a level of seniority and whenever there is a requirement, then you again come back. And again, depending on company requirement, all these things are subjected to that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so. And weekends, if you talk about, I don't even remember the last Sunday when I was home. If I don't fly on weekdays, then definitely on Sunday I've been flying. Weekend.
Yeah, so the cycle of weekdays and weekends, like any corporate work, I don't think most pilots do even know what day it is. They don't know the date. But if you ask them, is today a Friday? They're like, probably, I don't know.
So maybe for NOTAMs you have to know the day, because according to that you check if in case on that day if there is a closure, then we
Okay.
mark it accordingly. That's
Oh,
the
there is a
reason why.
day?
Yeah, that's the reason why I have a habit of checking a day and a date and then checking the NOTAMs. Like let's say in Chennai on Tuesday and Saturday there is a main runway closure. So yeah, because of that I know the day. Otherwise, you just don't end up, spending all the weekends with family or else with friends. So there is nothing wrong in it. Otherwise, if in case every pilot gets weekend off, then who will fly the passengers on weekend, right? So it's completely okay. And sometimes you do end up getting Sunday, Saturday also off. So there is, it's absolutely fine. Like I have no complaints at all.
Or which is your favorite layover?
So far, the favorite layover that I had was Singapore. Yeah. So back then, as per the FDTL, 2 consecutive midnight operation was not permitted.
Okay.
Okay. So if you operate one night, then next consecutive night you will have rest, and then you can operate the second night. Okay.
Correct.
So
Yeah, so
most-
you had like what?
we had 48 hours of
hours.
layover.
So what?
Okay.
How was it? What you did?
So it was amazing. Like I went and then I landed in the morning at about local time, there 4 o'clock, and I was like, yeah, now I'm dazed. I will, and when you're on international layover, so I thought of just having breakfast because that's what was included in our package, and then you get allowances, and on that allowance you can buy whatever you want, or you can have food, or it's your choice. You are not bound to have, any particular food over there. So that's and the allowance is quite handsome. So that was the time when I was a first officer. So it was not as handsome as captain's allowance. So I just had breakfast. I passed out for a while, and then I just explored some places. So let's see, where can I go. Then I went to Sentosa Island. Then I went to Universal Studios.
Nice.
Then I went to the Marina Bay, which was I was alone, but
Alright.
yes, I went to Marina Bay and had some nice wine there. It was pretty nice because it was such a long layover, so
Correct.
it was pretty okay if you go and you can chill. You
Yeah, on
have
the day
still-
one,
on
like,
the day one,
yeah,
huh?
yeah.
So you have the night next night.
Yeah,
so
so
you have
still
more than
maintaining.
24 hours.
So it was like
Yeah.
a mini
So,
vacation.
Mini
sort of thing.
vacation. Yeah, I went for shopping, and there are nice purses, Charles and Keith, amazing brands over there. And now I was there at Marina Bay, and I was just chilling, and I was clicking pictures and looking at the view and everything. And now I had to go back to my hotel, but I was not aware the last metro from that place to the hotel. Okay, hotel was just right next to the airport. Okay, which is the Crown Plaza. Now from Marina Bay, I took the last train, but there are 2 connecting trains which I had to change
Change
one
the-
train, before I could reach the destination. So the next train, so I checked the train of the first connection, the first that I left accordingly. Okay, at 10:30 I left. By the time I reached that second change of the train, the last train was already gone. I was like, holy shit, now what do I do?
Pura allowance ud gaya.
Yeah,
Now,
but that's
what do I do?
that's the lessons learned, right? When you
Yes.
go into a new place, then commute by
Yeah.
your own, figure out the
I-
public transport, meet the people,
Yes.
and yeah,
Yes.
that's amazing. It's a bitter sweet experience that
Yes.
time you had, but
I
now the
was-
next time you went there, it was all you knew. This was
Yeah, I
gonna
knew.
okay.
Yes.
This was the train has
And
only entered.
True.
And when you go to a new place like by
True.
yourself, like only the captain would be there with you, like
So captain
to
had
accompany
okay, so when I flew the first time, captain had his wife also on that layover.
Okay.
So they had their time on a layover because it's 48 hours layover. You can enjoy. You
That's
can
nice.
have family time if you want to get your spouse.
So
You know,
was it
so-
like lonely or something when you were traveling alone in Singapore?
No, it was kind of exciting because I was going to that place for the first time. So I did enjoy. And the second time when I went to Singapore was the time when the Jewel Mall inauguration was there the same day. And I was like, I am not missing this chance because now I don't know when will I come here next because after that very next month I was going for command upgrade. So that is the time when I was like, no, let's take this chance. So then later on it will take some time before I am cleared for this EDTO route because that is special clearance is required. So that is the time when I was like, yeah, let's go. And it was such a beautiful mall. The Jewel Mall is amazing. Like, it's beautiful. It was great.
Have you been to
experience.
Singapore?
Not yet.
Yeah.
I have been, but it was like, I guess, 12 hours.
12 hour layover.
So-
But I have heard that Singapore airport is one of the best airports in
Yes,
the world.
it is. It is.
Yeah, it
beautiful.
surely is.
And yeah, it was great.
That's amazing. So the captain took his wife, so you can take your girlfriend, right? I mean, I'm married, so I would take my wife.
Yeah, but so yeah, you can take your girlfriend depending on the company policies, the spouse as per their yeah, as per the company rules. You can that's
follow the
how it is.
company rules, whichever company it is.
Yes. Then the next one was Dubai layover, but this was very tricky because Dubai layover was the time when I landed in Dubai at night. So now everything is going to be shut. Next day night we had again flight. So next night, so we had red eye flight, but the previous night we landed at around 9-10 o'clock. So it was not the midnight, but it was a time when shops would be shut and malls would close. So that night I couldn't get a chance to go. But the next day I thought I will go in the morning so that I can come back home and come back to the room and sleep because we have full nighter now. So in the morning I left early and I went to the malls, and yes, it was amazing experience. I went to Burj Khalifa and took a ride
Right.
all the way to
In that,
136th floor.
this is about basically layovers in nearby countries, right?
Yeah.
Those pilots that are there on wide bodies,
Long
they
haul flights,
they
yes.
always get like 24, 48 hours layovers. Like Karan gets, right? Karan would go to New York and stay in New York for 48 hours and then come back. that's
Then again-
amazing.
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
Then,
yeah.
then again,
Right,
48 hours layover in India.
Right.
no
right.
more than 48
More than-
usually.
Okay.
Yeah, Karan, Ruchi, they all.
Yes, we'll have them on the podcast soon.
Yeah, shortly. Yeah, we will
Yeah.
have them on.
Yeah, for sure. Whenever
Yes.
your time and their time
Matches.
So we have been bragging about that we'll have guests on the podcast, and then your time and their time doesn't match.
Because everyone's a pilot and it's very difficult
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
To match.
get
Yeah.
2-3 pilots
Yeah.
at a place in a given fixed
Exactly.
time on a day,
True,
on this
true.
date this time.
Definitely,
Exactly.
definitely.
And then if we are doing this in Delhi, we are doing right now in Mumbai, right? If we are doing this in Delhi, we have to take all of this, and our songs to Delhi.
Which is
So-
a task.
Yeah.
All right, whenever they come, we'll have them over.
Yeah. So that's a definitely nice perk. Like
Then-
getting to fly basically
Amazing
itself.
places,
Itself is one thing. Then the layovers, right? Then what did we talk about? Getting to fly, layovers, then Yeah, the uniform, the privilege of the uniform, right? Like, we are just CPL holders, right now, okay, and yeah, potentially a part of certain airline, okay. So even during our training with those 2 bars on shoulders, okay, if you would try it after you're hungry after a flight, okay, and you would go to some restaurant because you don't have time now, you're hungry, right? You go to a restaurant to eat. The way people would treat us in the uniform and the way it would be without the uniform, I'm not saying neither is bad, okay, but it's way different when you're in a uniform.
Yeah.
It's the respect which the uniform brings us. Without even the uniform, like if someone comes to know that you are a pilot, they'll act bit differently. Like their respect for us would increase.
Yeah, like
Yes, yes.
basically, I guess
Definitely.
it is a thing about uniforms. Like, if you go if you are a police, you go in any
Yes,
place with
yes.
the uniform. If you are a doctor, you go to any place in a uniform. You are a pilot, right? Or you are in military uniform. Huge respect to the military, right? There is an inherent thing about wearing an uniform, right?
That,
Tell me
yeah.
your experiences about wearing a uniform.
Yeah, if I walk at the airport, everybody looks up to you as if, yeah, that's
Don't
the
you
captain.
think it is more in the non-airport areas than airport? Because in the airport areas, people are expecting people in uniform, pilots
Yes.
in uniform.
Yes, yes.
But then, if you put yourself into a place that you don't usually, like, say you are having a breakfast before going for your flight, right? And you are sitting in the
Yes,
restaurant,
in the
right?
restaurant. Yes,
That is a completely different
Definitely,
treatment that you would
definitely.
get.
Of course, they come to you, they are like, ma'am, what would you like to have? You'd like to have a black coffee, you'd like to have a cappuccino, or what would you have? And they will give you so many choices. And
They ask me that too without being in a hoodie.
yeah. So they give a lot of choices, and
Definitely
there
the
are,
way of talking changes.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah.
and they go out of the way at times and make something special dish for you, which is not even there in the buffet. So they are like, this is chef special, it's made for you. Like, wow, that's something amazing.
Yeah, I remember we had gone, like, you had some layover and I
Yes,
joined you
yes.
for dinner.
Dinner,
Obviously,
yeah.
I was paying for my dinner, and you had the dinner
Yeah.
from them.
Yeah,
And the chef made
Made
like
a-
special sushi for you,
yeah,
right?
yeah. Special sushi.
I mean, by far, one of the best sushis I've had in India, or I guess ever.
yeah.
Yeah.
Even tiramisu.
Yeah, tiramisu. That is by far
Yeah.
best tiramisu I've ever had.
Yeah,
Like,
that's
seriously.
right.
Perks of being a pilot.
Yes.
No, the other day when we were traveling from Delhi to Mumbai, and Neha had a turnaround time of around 1 hour. So we
Yes,
met. So when
yes,
we were
yes.
walking with her, going out of the airport,
Terminal 2, Bombay.
We both were there?
yes,
Yeah, yeah.
we both came on the same flight from Delhi to Mumbai,
Yeah.
and then we saw her aircraft. And
Very next aircraft.
Oh,
to
right,
Yes,
right,
yes.
right. We had put an Instagram story, right?
Yes,
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 yes.
yes.
So yeah, while we were walking with her, like everyone was looking at her with respect, and everything was like she is
Yeah.
some celebrity or some sort of thing.
Yeah.
And we were walking. I was
Yeah.
like, oh, let's go. Everyone is looking at us.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Yes.
I mean, girls wearing pilot uniform, that's something that represents power, responsibility, and I mean, I'm not saying that guys don't. Okay, guys do as well. But
Yes.
yeah, I mean, yeah, guys get the
More attention.
controversial statement that guys that are pilots get girls easily. Is it true? What's
know.
your thoughts on that?
I don't know. Someone said that the best pickup line in a club is "I'm a pilot."
Have you tried it?
I don't go to clubs.
Really?
Yeah.
Cool. So, do you get more guys when you wear uniform?
All the cabin crew are girls.
So as a pilot, we all have to go through the medicals every year. So how has your eating habits changed? Like before you started your pilot career and after you started your, like after you are into the career?
Yes, that has actually changed drastically. So earlier there was no thought of keeping certain parameters and keeping a healthy physique. So healthy body is very important, that you first of all have your BMI right and your blood parameters correct. So it's important that you eat correct and not eat right, and not have a lot of junk food, though it's a part of your routine and everyday life.
No, it's
Up
just
to
more than that as well, right?
Hmm.
Like, you don't listen to too loud music if
Yes.
you are
Yes,
a pilot,
yes,
right?
yes.
Pilot or navy, anything.
Yes,
You don't
yes.
listen to too loud of the music
True,
because you wanna protect your audibility.
Ear.
Throughout
Audiometry
audiometry,
needs to be.
audibility, audiometry. What's
Yeah.
the right word for it? Okay, so throughout the career that needs to be maintained, right? Then you protect your eyes, right? Always. Most pilots usually wear sunglasses.
Sunglasses.
Yes,
There's
yes.
a reason for it, from any physical damage or even sun damage,
Correct,
like burning
correct.
retina and,
True,
and
true.
such things, right?
True. Yeah, that is important, as well as eating healthy, keeping your weight in proportion. So it is dependent, of course, on your height, and the BMI is required to be within a normal range. So the normal range is between 20 to 25 for guys, and for girls it is between 19 to 24. So the BMI, sometimes a lot of people ask what is a BMI. That is what they don't know. BMI, it's the ratio of the weight in kgs upon height in meters square.
Yeah.
So that is that calculation needs to be done. That's how it
Yeah.
is. So once you have your weight right, and yeah, you can
Correct.
keep
I
doing
mean,
some.
I mean that might not be a con. Maintaining a good health is also holistically good for
True,
your
true.
life, right?
Of course.
I mean, some of the pilots come to know about their life-threatening conditions just because of the
Undergoing
medicals,
medicals that they are
right? The
doing.
medical
Mhm.
checkups,
Correct,
and they
correct,
come
correct.
to know about it
Correct.
beforehand, and
Correct,
then they
correct,
can
correct.
rectify it or
True,
do something
True,
about it,
true,
and
true.
it saves their life,
Correct,
right?
correct, correct.
So
True.
that's huge. But yes, I mean, in any other career, maintaining a good health could debatably is a choice, but in pilot career it is not. It is a compulsion.
Compulsion,
Yeah,
definitely.
it is a compulsion,
True.
right? Yep, that is one thing. Apart from that, in case any pilot loses their medical during their midway of their pilot career, then unfortunately they cannot continue to be a commercial pilot. That is one con, most certainly.
True.
Right.
True.
But again, then there are insurances.
Yes,
right,
yes, there are insurances.
which protect pilots against loss of license,
Loss of
loss of
license.
medicals.
Correct, correct, correct.
That is there. So that is a bit of a support for sure.
True, true.
Right.
Yeah, that is for the airline pilots. There are the FIP insurances, as well as for the CPL holders there are. So the depending on how much is the salary of the pilot at present, the amount that you will be getting in case of the loss of license would vary. So
Correct.
again, it depends on the temporary or permanent. Yes, there are terms and conditions for that.
Correct.
But yes, there are insurances to protect in case of loss of medical.
Yes, because we
Yeah.
can never say never, right? And
Yeah.
that's a bit of a support. Like, definitely the compensation may or may not be as much as a pilot would make in his or her whole lifetime, but it usually is sufficient to support the life
True.
until the pilot who has lost his medical could figure something else out. Or
True.
yeah,
True.
like
Yeah.
what for captain is the compensation for loss of medical
So-
approximately in insurances?
So the premium will be varied depending on whatever amount you get as a compensation in case of loss of license is from 75 lakhs, then 1 CR, 1.5 CR, 2 CR, etc. And then the premium varies. So that's the way
Makes
in
sense.
which you can insure yourself in case of loss of medical.
Yes, I
Yeah.
think most of the audience here might not be knowing about this insurance term which we are talking right now. So it's a great
Yes, so
knowledge which-
there are pilot insurances that airline pilots can get, okay, so which protects them against their medical. In case of loss of medical, they would be compensated as long as they meet the insurance criteria and everything.
This is not applicable for the initial medical, huh? It
this
is
once
applicable once you are
working with a
working
company,
with an airline.
then
Yeah,
you
yeah,
get
yeah.
this insurance.
Right. Initial medical has to be cleared by the student, class 2 followed by class 1.
Like I remember when I was not in this aviation industry, so before that I wasn't that mindful about eating foods. So at one go I used to eat like 12 to 15 gulab jamun. and now after I'm in this career, like at max 1 or 2, and that is by choice. Like I'm not forcing, like I'm not stopping myself from having that much,
Right,
but
right.
it's something which has like come naturally for
Correct,
me
correct,
when I
correct.
switched this career.
True, true. Nice. Yeah, here in flight food we do get gulab jamun, and now I have to reduce a couple of kgs for my medical, and I'm like, okay, I should not have that.
Well,
So,
you can,
yeah.
not ideally, but sometimes in certain medicals, if you are overweight, that's okay. But then there
Yeah.
are additional tests
Yeah.
performed. Right?
The lipid profile test is required to be performed.
Has there been any instance where you are scared to take the medical test, or are pilots generally scared like for that medical test every year?
Yeah, so the initial medical is at the Airforce station, and very few civil stations are there, like Nanavati and in Chennai Apollo. Otherwise, all the Airforce stations are there where initial class 1 medical is conducted, where AFCME Delhi, then in Bangalore, or else Bangalore IM, or Jorhat MEC. So, at these places, they are all Air Force stations, and they conduct the medical for the Air Force pilots. So, their standards are very high. So, when I went for my initial medical, that was in Jorhat. The reason being I got Jorhat because back then in 2006, there was huge chunk and delay in getting the medical appointment. So I got the medical appointment 6 months later. So I applied it in the month of Jan 2007, and I got an appointment in July 2007. So there was a delay of 6 months in getting a medical data, and that too I got it in Jorhat. But that when I went for the medical, then it's like the entire environment is different. They are Air Force doctors, and they are trained for treating the Air Force pilots, and that was kind of intimidating. So that was the reason why I was like, okay, I just hope this goes well. And after it went well and I got CA35, I was relieved.
Yeah, actually, that's a great point that you covered. Like going to an Air Force station for the medicals, and then for the first time, it definitely is intimidating. Everyone's in the uniform, even the doctors, because they are Air Force
Correct. Doctors.
doctors, right? So,
And so as a pilot, what other con you can think about?
So the cost of flight training is huge. So the flight training cost ranges from somewhere between 30 lakhs to even more than 1 crore. So that depends which pathway you choose. Depending on that,
30 lakh rupees, you don't get flight training done nowadays. Do you?
So the cost of flight training is expensive. It ranges from 35 lakhs to about 80 lakhs. So to arrange so much funds is again a challenge. So it is one of the con.
Yeah, definitely. And the competition, right? It's a competitive field now, like any other career. Being a doctor, being an engineer, even now, pilot training has like aviation has become competitive, right?
Yes, for the
So
job, like the initial first job, like you need to work very hard to get that job. And once you arrange the funds for the training, right, the salary is very handsome. So in, let's say, 2 to 3 years, you can pay back the amount. But for that, you need to land a job. And how do you land a job? Is work hard.
for sure, and as Indian aviation is growing, there will be, in my opinion, there will be more jobs created as well. There will be more flight schools. There will be more regional airlines. There will be, basically, the SpiceJet was coming up with a program of those seaplanes, right?
Yes,
Mhm.
they
Yeah.
have started
Yeah.
also.
So until now, it has only been like jobs in an airline or not was a binary thing, right? Either it's a yes, or either the person is jobless or has an airline pilot's job. Eventually, down the line, because as much of the history tells us that Indian aviation walks on the lines of American aviation, pretty much. There used to be only 4 exams in a year. Now there is online on demand, like FAA does have, right? India has started growing regional airlines, right? So
Yes.
day by day, that will be there, and more flight schools opening, more instructors are needed, right? So earlier, 95, more than 95% of the jobs, those were to, let's say, both those were available to pilots, were only airline jobs. Probably 5 to 10% jobs from the field of, I would say, private jets and private flying and all of those. Then the few would go to the Coast Guard and all of those things, right? Air Force is a completely
Complete different.
different ball game. But now, eventually, as Indian aviation is growing, India will have in-house infrastructure for the training, such as the flight training schools. Now, more flight training schools, more instructors' jobs available. The regional small planes, such as SpiceJet's program to the seaplane, or some other replacement to it, will have smaller aircraft, but will provide jobs to the pilots. So the route can get longer, right? Because of the competition. But not getting a job is, I would say, in my opinion, a kind of negative thought, right? Because
So if you're persistent and if you continue to pursue your dream of becoming an airline pilot or any pilot to start with in any flight
Yeah.
school as instructors, so
Yeah.
the airline pilots who are there even in India, not everyone has directly become an airline pilot. There are a lot of them who have worked as instructors, who have worked on the smaller airplanes and then have come to
Correct.
Airbus. So you can start from anywhere. Like if you want to be in aviation, then be it a ground staff, be it a cabin crew, be it the ground engineer or ground support staff, or you can be a flight instructor in any flight school. So you can stay connected with aviation if there is no airline vacancy at that point
Correct.
of time, and continue to polish your skills and
Skills.
hone your skills as well as knowledge, and you will be there.
So it all depends on how hard you are willing to work to get
Yes.
the job. Okay,
Yes.
so there are instances where a CPL holder works in an airline as a dispatcher or a ground staff, and eventually after certain years of doing the job, they get hired into the airline as a pilot
Yes.
in the in-house
Yes.
quota, right? So
Yes.
that's one of the way how people who are determined to get the job
Correct.
work their way up to
True.
the seat.
True. I mean, because of the competition, and yes, for sure, there are unemployed pilots, right? And all of those things. There is a kind of negative sentiment developed, okay, about jobless pilots, okay. Now there are so many jobless engineers. There are so many jobless, well-educated people all around India. Okay, so it's a matter of each industry and not specific to aviation.
Aviation. Correct.
One thing for sure, that in aviation, once you are done with your training, you have already spent a lot of money into the training, right? So that puts people into a place of either a financial stress, that okay, that much money is spent, now what next, and there still is not a job available, or something like that. Then I would say work hard in order to get out of that situation, right? Like, comparatively, other education systems have, the conventional educations have lesser expense in comparison to pilot training, right? Pilot training has more of it, so you need to be able to commit to that degree to make it work and get any job in an airline as a ground staff or ground person or anything.
Correct. True.
Basically, this is not to tell anyone that you must become a pilot or you should become a pilot, nothing of that sort, but that is what we felt to be right for ourselves, so
Correct.
we chose to become pilots, right?
Correct.
You have struggled a lot to get to this point where you
Yes.
are at now. We have done our part, and we are, so that's about it. All right.
Of course, looking at this whole scenario of pros and cons, I personally felt, see, it's an individual choice. Out of this, which one you think is more relevant to you? Accordingly, it's everybody's individual choice whether they have to become a pilot or not. Of course, not everyone is supposed to become a pilot. So, I personally felt, yes, the pros outweigh the cons, and hence, yes, this is where I am, and we
Yes,
are.
definitely. So if you think that the pros are in your favor and the cons doesn't matter that much for you, then I think pilot is the right career for you. In that way, you can decide.
Right. I guess that'll be all for today.
Yes.
If you are an aspiring pilot, sign up for CNTAA online. CNTAA, the Pilot Ground School, India's #1 on-demand pilot ground school for you. Okay, where Capt.Neha teaches you for the DGCA exams and all such small topics that are relevant to aviation. Okay, and it was great having you. Subscribe, like the video, share it, and see you in the next episode. Bye.
Bye bye. See you in the next one.
Bye bye. See you in the next one.
Stars ignite the universe.